Hey, this is Clayton Lawrence, the super heavyweight boxer for Team ISV, and you're listening to VIOC in action.
Hi, this is Cy Thompson, laser sailor for Team ISV, and you're listening to VIOC in action.
This is your high hurdle specialist, Eddie Lovett, for Team VI, and you're tuned in to VIOC in action.
Hi, this is Laverne Jones for Virgin Islands 4-time Olympian and 6th fastest female in the 60-meter history. Tune in to VIOC in action to learn about athletes and what motivates us. Remember, teamwork make the dream work.
All right, good day and greetings and welcome to VIOC in action. Thanks for tuning in. This is your host, Neil Bobby Thomas, where I'm going to give you information on all things Olympics, all things sports. As the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee, headed up by President Angel Chico Morales, is making an effort to get the community in the know on what's going on with the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee and its member federation and all of its fantastic athletes. So tune in here every weekend and you will get the information about the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee. So, for those of you, this may be your first time, let me give you the beginner's guide to the Olympics.
Maybe it's Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, or Lindsey Vonn. Or maybe it's Kathy Freeman, Seb Coe, or Nadia Comaneci. We all know the Olympic Games, right? Every 4 years, the world comes together, more than 200 countries, and the best athletes compete for a medal, and we're all watching. But have you ever wondered what's behind the Games? How is it all organized? Who puts it all together? And yes, who pays for it? Well, most of us know it all began a long time ago, 3,000 years ago to be precise, in ancient Greece. But someone, Pierre de Coubertin, had the bright idea to bring it all back. And to do that, he set up the International Olympic Committee, a little over 100 years ago. But the IOC couldn't do it all alone, and still can't. They need a little help from their friends. So, who does what? Each of the sports that takes part in the Olympic Games has an international federation that runs the sport all year round. From rules to referees to records, that's their job. And then there are the more than 200 national Olympic committees around the world. Their job is to select the best athletes and get them ready for the Games. So, we've got the sports and we've got the athletes, and we can get them to the Games. But then there's the host city, which brings the whole thing to life. And that's a big job, and that's a long job. 7 years from the moment the IOC chooses the host city until the moment the cauldron is lit and the Games begin. Think about all the things that need to be done to make the Games happen. Not just the stadiums, the pools, the ski slopes, but where are the athletes going to stay? What are they going to eat? And how are they going to get to their events? That's what the organizing committee does. It's a very big job, and it takes all those 7 years working with the IOC to get it done. And sometimes it can be a bumpy journey. In the summer, there are 10,500 athletes competing in 28 sports, and they have coaches, doctors, trainers, friends, and family. In the winter, it's about 2,500 athletes in 7 sports, and they need a lot of people too. And think about the equipment. Several hundred pairs of skis in the winter. In the summer, the equestrian athletes need their horses, and the rowers need their boats. They've all got to be delivered to the right place at the right time in good condition, especially the horses. Okay, so it's a big task, that's for sure. And someone has to pay for it. So, where does the money come from? A large part comes from broadcast rights. Broadcasters pay to air the Games in their country. More than half the world's population watched at least some of London 2012. And we also partner with some of the world's leading companies who provide funding for the Games and the more than 200 Olympic teams and their athletes. They also supply products and expertise that help the Games run smoothly. So, the Games are paid for mainly by the IOC and the organizing committee. But governments sometimes take the opportunity of the Games to build or improve roads or airports or housing. that can also leave a lasting benefit for the city. But you're probably wondering what happens to the money that's left over and what goes on between the games. The good news is that the money that's left goes back into sport. More than 90% is redistributed to sport around the world. Not just to help the Olympic Games, but to develop sport. After all, the Olympics is about using sport to make the world a better place. Some of the money goes in scholarships to help fund athletes in their training. It might help pay for a coach for a promising sprinter, or provide transportation for a skater to get to the games. And we fund sport where you play too. We support your National Olympic Committee and local sports groups. And we work with other groups like the United Nations to bring sport, equipment, and kit to schools and local clubs. We spend a lot of time contributing to building a better world through sport. For example, there's the Youth Olympic Games, helping young athletes to live the Olympic dream and its values. And we use events like Olympic Day, June 23rd, to try to get you to do sport. We want the world to get active and live a healthy lifestyle. And we want to ensure women get the same access to sport as men. At the Olympics, all sports are now open to women, and every single nation has now sent women to the Games. We also want to make sure the competition is fair, so we support the athletes and the fight against doping. And then finally, when it's all over and an athlete has run his last race or swam her last length, the IOC also works to try to help them get jobs. When you've spent your whole young life committed to excellence in sport, sometimes you forget about your future, and that's where we lend a helping hand. So, we all love the Olympic Games, but the Olympics is about more than just 2 weeks every 4 years. We work all year round, using sport to make the world a better place. To find out more, have a look at our website, Olympic.org.
Olympic.org, they would give you that information you need to get all what you're seeking about the Olympics. And of course, you know, as you heard, there is lots of history. But as long as the Olympics have been around, there are still a lot of people who kind of don't get it, who don't know what sports is, the value of it, why it, you know, some just refer to it as games, but it's a lot more than games. And a lot of people read into Olympics. There's like they think that it's some kind of subliminal covert operation going on, an organization doing funny stuff. Well, you know me, I'm always on YouTube trying to get some information. It's interesting to see what's out there. And I found one called The Olympic Movement Decoded. So let's take a listen to this one. The Olympic Movement Decoded, for those who still have questions surrounding the Olympics.
As display the winners for the USA. Zanderpick has the crowd on its feet. There goes the tape and the record.
The Olympic Games, the ultimate sporting event, bringing the world together in celebration of all that's best in us.
21-jährigen Bob Beamon werden diese Minuten nicht vergessen.
And for the billions that watch the drama unfold, a belief in their almost mythical ability to unite and inspire. Have you ever wondered where it all started? Who organises the games? Who pays for them? And what, if anything, happens in all that time in between games? Well, let's take a look behind the scenes and find out. The story began almost 3,000 years ago with the Olympic Games of ancient Greece. Inspired by these games and convinced that sport was a springboard for renewed moral energy, French academic and sportsman Pierre de Coubertin revived both the sporting competitions and their innate values. The International Olympic Committee was formed to run the Games, and so the modern Olympic movement began. The first Olympic Games of the modern era took place in 1896 in Athens. But it wasn't until 1914 that one of today's most widely recognised flags appeared, the Olympic flag, with its 5 interlocking rings, designed by de Coubertin. The rings symbolised the union of the 5 continents and the meeting of athletes from across the world at the Olympic Games. And it is that unifying spirit that makes the Games unique, with its mission, its values, and its rich symbolism. In 1928 in Amsterdam, a symbolic fire was lit for the first time. This was followed 8 years later by the tradition of the Olympic torch relay. Today, the flame is still lit in Olympia before embarking on its journey through the host country, forming a bridge between the ancient and modern Games. It's a movement steeped in its history, but one that has evolved dramatically since its beginnings. So who exactly is it today that had the responsibility for bringing the Games to a world stage? Here, from its headquarters in Lausanne, Switzerland, and well over 100 years since its creation, the International Olympic Committee still leads the Olympic movement. Its mission? To promote Olympic values, to ensure the regular celebration of the Games, and to educate young people through sport. The IOC is made up of a maximum of 115 members, including the President. IOC members are volunteers, elected by their peers during the General Assembly, called the IOC session. They include sports administrators and experts in specific fields, with over a quarter being Olympic athletes. They represent the IOC and the Olympic movement in their respective countries. The IOC members meet at least once a year at the IOC session. This is when important decisions are taken, such as the election of future Olympic host cities, as well as which sports will be part of the Games programme. And there are more than 200 national Olympic committees around the world, known as NOCs. They're responsible for organising their athletes' participation in the Games. They also encourage Olympic education and work with the IOC to promote the Olympic movement and its values. The athletes are at the heart of the Olympic movement, raising the profile of sport across their communities and becoming role models for future generations. Over 10,000 athletes from over 200 countries compete in 28 different sports at the Summer Games, while the Winter Games feature 7 sports, with more than 2,500 athletes from over 80 countries. For each Olympic sport, there's an international federation, which governs that sport around the world and is the umbrella of affiliated national federations. They oversee all technical aspects of the sport, including at Games time. They also guarantee the regular organisation of competitions, as well as respect for the rules.
The Games of the 32nd Olympiad in 2020 are awarded to the city of Tokyo.
Once a host city is chosen, it forms an OCOG. That's an organising committee for the Olympic Games. It's a long journey, starting 7 years before the Games, and includes delivering the venues and the Olympic Village, as well as providing essential services to run a smooth Games, such as ticketing, transport and technology. Throughout the entire life cycle of an OCOG, the IOC, through its Coordination Commission and with the expertise of its staff, monitors the progress of preparations and assists the OCOG in its complex task. It's a great responsibility for a host city, but also a great opportunity to create lasting change. And sustainable legacies are very much a fundamental commitment of the Olympic movement. As one of the world's largest sporting events, the Games can be a tremendous catalyst for change, with the potential to create far more than just good memories once the final medals have been awarded. The IOC receives no public money. It's a non-governmental, not-for-profit organisation. So, how's it financed? The IOC's revenues mainly come from the sale of broadcast rights for the Olympic Games and through its worldwide sponsorship programme. Over 90% of the revenue generated by these programmes goes back to sport and is distributed to the organisations within the Olympic movement, including the national Olympic committees and the international federations. A shining example is the Olympic Solidarity Programme, where a share of the TV revenues from the Games is used to ensure that athletes from every background and all regions of the world can fulfil their Olympic dreams. At Beijing in 2008, and supported by an Olympic scholarship, Rahula Nikpai won a bronze in Taekwondo, the first Afghan athlete ever to win an Olympic medal. He is one of thousands of athletes who have benefited from this programme. The 2 weeks of awe-inspiring sport takes place every 2 years and in so many ways defines the magic of the Games. But there's more to the story than that. What goes on in between is also intrinsic to the Olympic movement. In 2010, the IOC added the Youth Olympic Games for athletes aged 15 to 18. The Youth Olympic Games is the highest level global multi-sport event and integrates sport, education and culture, inspiring young athletes to live by the Olympic values and become role models. In between the Games, the IOC, together with different stakeholders, also carries out a range of social and community projects that may take less of the spotlight but still have a huge impact around the world. These programs include Sport for All initiatives, promoting sport as a human right for all individuals regardless of race, gender and social class. And development through sport projects, helping to bring sport to local communities around the world with a special emphasis on developing countries. Sport for Peace projects have also been successfully developed to bring different ethnic groups together peacefully. And through many other initiatives, the IOC and its partners promote education through sport, protection of the environment, and are constantly striving to promote women in sport on and off the field of play. So, when you experience the excitement and the emotion of the Olympics, you now know it's the result of the everyday work of a huge number of individuals and organisations. The Olympic movement, national Olympic committees, the international sports federations and, of course, the International Olympic Committee that works with these and with the organising committee of each edition of the Games, whether summer or winter. And whilst the Games continue to deliver 2 weeks of unmatched sporting endeavour, the IOC and the Olympic movement ensure that the original ideas of the founder of the modern movement, Pierre de Coubertin, is woven into its fabric all year round. And the belief that the Olympic movement can contribute to building a better world through sport continues to burn just as brightly today.
That's the Olympic movement decoded. Again, just an effort to kind of explain that the Olympic Committee is what it is. It is straightforward, a global entity trying to bring the globe together. There's so much of human interaction that is negative, and the Olympic Committee is on a mission to just, hey, we're all people, we can exist together. A lot of people don't know how to bring people together. So our entity, this is what we're going to do. We're going to bring the world together through sports. You know, there are some core elements of being a human that a lot of us appreciate. A lot of us appreciate competition. The sport does that. The Olympic Committee is taking advantage of our love for sport, of our love for competition, and it is making it important in every country because it's showing that we can compete. We can be adversaries, but through competition and still live well with each other following competition, you know. So the International Olympic Organization is just, I mean, as I've said so many times, it is the most respected company on the planet. You know, they work hard for that. They do a lot, and a lot of people see the efforts of the Olympic Committee and they invest. Very much so, like the global partners we have. The global partners make sure they put their money behind an organization that is exemplifying what it is to be a corporate citizen, a global citizen in the Olympic Committee. You know, they are everywhere, and if they're not there, they're trying to get there. So, you know, the whole effort of the Olympic Committee is to show you, the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee, the whole effort of the administration, the executive board, in President Angel Chico Morales, Secretary General Lynn Reed, the Treasurer Joseph Bushelty, Vice President for St. Thomas St. John Anton Sliger, and the Vice President for St. Croix John Abramson, is to really stress to all of us the importance of sport. With that, it is time for our first break here on VIOC in Action. We'll be right back.
Skeleton Racer for Team ISV, and you are listening to VIOC in Action.
Hi, this is Tim Pitts, 2004 Olympic sailor for the Virgin Islands, sailing the laser class on VIOC in Action.
This is Mr. One Time for the One Time, Leon Hunt, long jump record holder for Team VI. Thank you for logging on to VIOC in Action.
And welcome back to the show, VIOC in Action. And we're giving you some great history as we talk about different aspects of the Olympic movement. And, you know, what a lot of people don't know is, what does the Olympic mean to the Virgin Islands? On a previous show, we had John Abramson Jr., our vice president from St. Croix, who said, said the things that I wanted to say for the longest while, you know, how important it is, how much sports is an economy in itself. And to sit there, as many do, and just disregard it or just play it down as simply games, they really don't know what's going on. But it means a lot. Virgin Islands have always been competitors. We've always been blessed to have fantastic athletes from our territory, you know, and not just Olympic athletes, but athletes in general. As we know, we've had, as recently Tim Duncan, who was in the history of the sport of basketball, one of the greatest. So, I mean, that in itself is enough to establish value of sport across the globe and how it ties. A lot of people know of the Virgin Islands from hearing Tim Duncan. Born on St. Croix, Virgin Islands. Like, where's that? Let me check that out. And they go to search it. That's a beautiful place. Let me go down there and see if all the people are as amazing as Tim. And guess what? They find out that we are. So that's a simple smidgen of how sport affects us all. But as mentioned, we have a great history in sport. And you've heard that in the previous shows I've listed, I've done as matter of fact, I'm gonna do that today. I'm gonna do that moment in history today with Peter Homburg, because I like hearing that history and it gives me goosebumps, you know. But more winners. We've had many winners, but one Olympic medalist, and that Olympic medalist, of course, is Peter Homburg. But that was in 1988 in Seoul, Korea, right? But we have, you know, many other games that we attend and we have medaled as well. Take, for example, let's start as recently as 2010. We had the Youth Olympic Games, and Ian Burroughs won a gold there as well in sailing. Now, that's 2010. And it sounds like, oh, that's ancient history. That's almost 10 years ago. No. Pay attention, people. Ian Burroughs most recently was named like the Sailor of the Year for the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee, for the Virgin Islands Sailing Association, for like Harvard University. I mean, I can't explain to you how this sport has value in the Virgin Islands and in our history. So we can't minimize at all the sports in the Virgin Islands, you know, and as mentioned, Ian Burroughs, big time. 10 years ago, he was doing big things, and now still hard at it. As I mentioned, the big things he's doing, not Harvard, but Yale University. Not Harvard, Yale University. Still Ivy League, still amazing, as Ian Burroughs is doing his thing for the game, the sport of sailing and yachting, and he's doing an amazing job. So let's go to not only just Olympics, but we also participate in the Pan American Games. So let's go. We're going to take you through the history of our Pan American victories from 1979 until 1995. So in 1995, Lisa Norberger, in sailing, she got a silver. Also in sailor, we had Bruce Meredith with his rifle, got us a silver medal. Sailing in the J-24, Peter Homburg got us a silver medal. Chris Neal also got us a silver medal. So this is all in 1995. Chris Neal was also sailing, also in the J-24, and he got us a silver. So that's like a team sport where you have like the crew of 4 on the J-24, and these are the guys that were on that team. We also had Chris Rosenberg sailing the J-24 and got the silver, and Maurice King, final member of the squad, with the silver medal in the Pan American Games. This was down in Mar del Plata in Argentina. So in 1991, we also medaled there, and this was in Havana, Cuba. So we had Robert Fellner, who got the bronze in Taekwondo. And then in athletics, in the 4x100 meter relay, that 4-man squad brought the bronze home as well. Neville Hodge, Keith Smith, Derry Pemberton, and James Fleming, all members of the Team ISV 4x100 relay squad bringing home the bronze. And in Indianapolis, Indiana, in 1987, Robert Fellner again brought home the hardware, winning a silver in Taekwondo. Also medaling in Taekwondo with the bronze medal was Raquel Cuevas. And then in 1979 in athletics, we won a bronze, and that was Brian Morissette. So that's our Olympic, Youth Olympic, and Pan American medals. Now let's go to the Central American and Caribbean Games, the CAC Games. And in 2010, in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, Tabari Henry in the 400 meter in athletics won us the silver. And Mohammed Halim won the silver in athletics for the long jump. And we're missing 2014 here because I know we won some medals there as well. I have to get that updated. But we go to 2006 in Cartagena, Colombia, where Cy Thompson won the gold in sailing in the laser class. And then, see, and Cy was one of those that medaled in Mexico in 2014, Veracruz, Mexico, in 2014, and the medals are not listed, and we'll update that information for you. Also in Colombia, bringing home some hardware in the athletics was the legendary Laverne Jones, as she brought home the silver in the 100 meter. And then Hugo Molinar, a lightweight boxer, brought home the silver as well. In 2002 in San Salvador, El Salvador, Anthony Couton, sailing a laser class, brought home the gold. And doing some cycling for Team ISV was Chesson Frey, and Chesson brought home the gold as well. In 1998 in Maracaibo, Venezuela, and I was part of that delegation. I played on the baseball team back then. Flora Hyacinth in the long jump brought home the gold in Maracaibo. And in equestrian, Lucy Gigi Hewitt brought home the silver. Now we move to 1993 in Ponce, Puerto Rico, where we had a gold won by Lisa Nurberger in sailing, and she was sailing aboard. And then you had in equestrian, Stephanie Angus brought home the silver. Taekwondo, Robert Fellner brought home the bronze. And then in the team sports, in equestrian, Stephanie Angus, Charles Holzer, and Elena Snell-Kidd brought home the bronze for the equestrian team for ISV. All that in 1993 in Ponce, Puerto Rico. In 1990, Mexico City, our boxer Christian Joseph, he came home with the silver, and Reginald Brown brought home the bronze. In gymnastic, Eric Heckler got a bronze as well, and so did Bruce Meredith in shooting. So in 1986, in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, Flora Hyacinth set, at that time, the Central American and Caribbean game record in athletics, winning the gold. You know, anytime you're setting records, you're up there winning the big shiny stuff. In yachting, Peter Holmberg also got a silver there. Also in another athletics event, Flora Hyacinth won herself a bronze medal, so she came back with 2 medals from those games. And John Holmberg in yachting, he got a bronze. In 1982 in Havana, Cuba, in yachting, the gold was won by Kenny Klein. In swimming, there was, at that time, it was a CAC record when Shelley Kramer won the gold. Shelley Kramer also won a silver in another event in swimming. And Jody Lawrence, also in swimming, got a silver. The final swimming in Havana went to boxing as James Parson won that medal. And then we also got a bronze from Shelly Kramer, who racked up 3 medals in Havana, Cuba in 1982 for Team ISV. And then Jody Lawrence in swimming, claiming 2nd medal. And Clifton Charleswell in boxing, winning the bronze. In 1978, in Medellin, Colombia, Shelly Kramer in the water doing the swimming was all we had to talk about, because in her events, she medaled and medaled and medaled and won 3 medals for the Virgin Islands, and that's all we took home in 1978. So Shelly Kramer won a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal in Medellin in 1978, and that was a total of our medals for that event. In 1974, in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, in yachting, Art Andrew won himself and the Team ISV the gold. And then in tennis doubles, Gary Nelthorpe and Albert Richards brought home the bronze. We move now to 1970, Panama City, where the only medal we received was a silver medal in wrestling by Ivan David. And in 1966, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands' first event into the Central American and Caribbean Games, we have 5 silver medals and a bronze. And Liston David in weightlifting, he won a silver. Ivan David in wrestling, he won a silver. And Rudy Thompson and John Holmberg in yachting brought home the silver. And in athletics, Carl Plaskett won himself a silver and a bronze. So Carl Plaskett in athletics won 2 medals in 1966. And that is pretty much our history of medal winning outside of 2014. The information from Veracruz, Mexico, is not as yet online, and we gotta add that information in so we could keep our visitors to the website up to speed on the good news that we've had as the Virgin Islands, as Team ISV, in international sport competition. We have a lot to be proud of, so no doubt at all that we are slowing down. As I mentioned that Ian Burroughs doing big things, and he is already been named, the Virgin Islands Sailing Association Athlete of the Year. That was for 2017, but he is not stopping. I'm sure he has much, much more winning in his future, as he has now completed I think his college years. I don't think he graduated. I think he did graduate from Yale University. So with that, we can expect big things to continue for our very own Ian Burroughs, one of the many young athletes that the Virgin Islands has. We know will continue to do awesome for Team ISV. It is time for a final break here on VIOC in Action. So let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Adrian Durant, coach for the VI National Track and Field team. Set your goals and work hard to achieve them. Believe in yourself, and anything is possible. Tune into VIOC in action to learn how you can take your game to the next level. And remember, if it's to be, it's up to me.
Hi, this is Tim Pitts, 2004 Olympic sailor for the Virgin Islands, sailing the laser class on VIOC in action.
This is Dr. Jerry Smith, physical therapist with the VI Olympic Committee. To unleash the elite athlete in you, the key ingredients are good nutrition, hard work, and dedication. Give yourself what you need to get in and stay in the game. Tune into VIOC in action for tips and fun activities to unleash the elite athlete in you.
All right, and welcome back to VIOC in action. And talking about history, we've ran through so far 2 items that speak to the history of the Olympics, and we also ran through the history of Team ISV and their winnings. So what we want to do now is try and get towards a couple items that sticks towards the history theme as they are speaking directly to Team ISV. One, of course, talking about our only Olympic medalist, Peter Holmberg, and about the VIOC in general.
Hey, well, it's time now for VIOC Moment in History. In 1966, several sports-minded citizens of the Virgin Islands agreed that something had to be done to provide our athletes with a better chance to compete on the international level. The first requirement was to affiliate at least 5 sports to their respective international federations by convincing these international federations that their sports were active in the Virgin Islands and that our athletes could compete on a regional level. 6 sports affiliated: track and field, yachting, weightlifting, basketball, fencing, and volleyball. As a result of a major lobbying effort to the International Olympic Committee, the Virgin Islands was granted permission to participate on a trial basis in the 1966 San Juan Central American and Caribbean Games. Despite many difficulties, Carl Plaskett, Ivan David, Listen Sproul, Rudy Thompson, and John Hamber won medals. As a result, the Virgin Islands was granted full membership status in the International Olympic Committee. The Virgin Islands Olympic Committee was built on that auspicious beginning, and with the exception of the boycotted 1980 Olympics in Moscow, has sent a team to every Central American and Caribbean, Pan American, and Olympic competition since 1966. The Virgin Islands Olympic Committee's first Olympic medal was won in 1988 at the Seoul Olympics. The VIOC has grown from its original 6 federations now to 22. Virgin Islands is extremely grateful to the VIOC founders, Calvin Whitley, Julio Francis Edwards, Vern Colwood, Len Stein, Tracy Jackal, for having the foresight, courage, stamina, and determination to bring the Virgin Islands into the Olympic arena. This is your VIOC Moment in History.
So what we'll do now, see what I've been trying to do, is get a little action here. And I am not. But we're going to make things work out for us one way or another to get some information here. So here is our little piece on Peter Holmberg, Moment in History.
Peter William Holmberg was born on October 4th, 1960 on St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He and older brother John were introduced to the sport of sailing at ages 4 and 6 respectively by their parents Richard and Louise Holmberg. Richard was based on St. Thomas while serving on the submarines in the Navy and returned on his honeymoon never to leave. Both Richard and Louise went on to become great sailors, Richard competing in the 1972 Olympics and Louise winning the Sunfish Worlds. The waters of the Virgin Islands became Peter's playground, and he was soon competing in local races at the newly formed St. Thomas Yacht Club. By the age of 9, he was competing in national events, capped by a third-place finish in the Sunfish World Championship at the age of 16. He attended St. Peter and Paul Catholic School, then pursued a non-traditional path toward his Charlotte Amalie High School diploma via high school classes, night courses, College of the Virgin Islands, and GED studies. Holmberg then transferred to California's Santa Rosa Junior College, continued on to Cabrillo College in Santa Cruz, and finally Sonoma State University, where he competed on the university's sailing team and graduated with a BA degree in management. Returning to St. Thomas, Holmberg set his sights on the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, California. While working as a sailmaker to make ends meet, he chose a single-handed fin class and trained locally for a year before raising enough cash to try and buy a fin and head to the States for the final year of training. He represented the Virgin Islands well, placing 11th among the 36 boat field. Encouraged by his initial success, Peter hatched a plan to campaign for the 1988 Olympics game in Busan, South Korea. This campaign, however, would benefit from better strategic planning, a longer fundraising period, and a 2-year training regimen. Peter traveled to South Korea a year prior to the games to compete in the pre-Olympics regatta. He finished 8th and acquired a wealth of knowledge about the event, supplied boats, and challenging conditions of Busan. Peter's reconnaissance mission spurred 2 key decisions: to purchase a Korean-made Hyundai fin and to train in the waters of the Virgin Islands, which best replicated the rough sailing conditions of South Korea. Holmberg's strategy worked. At age 27, Peter won silver medal at the 24th Olympic Games, the first Olympic medal ever won by the U.S. Virgin Islands. Following this Olympic success, Peter became the team helmsman and helped Matador 2 win the 1990 Maxi World Championship. In 1992, Peter ventured into match racing and built a team of Virgin Islanders to compete in the international circuit. He began as an unranked skipper competing with the wild card slots, but moved up quickly in the world, and by 1999 he was ranked number 3 in the world. Peter reached the pinnacle of match racing in number 1 world ranking when he won the 2001-2002 Swedish Match Tour Championship with an impressive run that included victories in the Bermuda Gold Cup, Steinlager Line 7 Cup, and Congressional Cup. In 1996, Peter formed the Virgin Islands America's Cup Challenge, a syndicate later calling itself Team Caribbean that would quest for the 2000 America's Cup in Auckland, New Zealand. The syndicate united the people of the Virgin Islands and raised an astounding $5 million towards the budget. But unable to secure the necessary amount of deadline to start boat construction, the team opted to merge with Team Dennis Conner in January 1999. Peter transitioned to the afterguard of Stars and Stripes, competing in the 2000 America's Cup Challenge Selection Series, where Team Dennis Conner ultimately finished 3rd. Peter then joined Oracle B&W team as helmsman for the 2003 America's Cup. After 3 years of boat development and training, Oracle finished a close 2nd in the Louis Vuitton Challenger Series. Late in 2003, Peter accepted an offer from the 2003 America's Cup winner, Alinghi of Switzerland, to join the Defender as a helmsman. Then followed 3 years of intensive training and boat development in Europe, where in the contest that followed, Alinghi defeated Emirates Team New Zealand 5-2 in the final and successfully defended the 2007 America's Cup in Valencia, Spain. Following that remarkable victory, Peter returned home to the Virgin Islands, a master helmsman now capable of achieving perfect balance on any boat. Peter sought the same sense of equilibrium in his personal life, and he found it perched on the deck of his tropical home in the same island where his journey to the pinnacle of sailing had begun decades before. Peter now bases himself on St. Thomas and offers professional sailing, consulting, and speaking services to clients worldwide. VIOC Moment in History, Peter Holmberg.
All right, and that is the good word from Peter Holmberg. So this has been Bobby Thomas for VIOC in action, and I'll see you next week.
Hey, this is Lynn Reed, Secretary General of the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee. Wanted to thank you for listening to VIOC in action.
This is Angel Chico Morales, President of the Virgin Islands Olympic Committee, thanking you for joining us on VIOC in action.